Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. This is the regular SIG Network call. As usual, we are governed by the Code of Conduct, so please be kind to each other. It doesn't cost you anything. And good evening to whomever is in the further east time zones. We have a short agenda today and relatively low attendance. Not surprising, today is the last day of the KEP merge window, so lots of people are busy. We are within single-digit hours, so I think today's meeting will be abbreviated. I mentioned in the pre-call chatter, perhaps I will propose to skip triage for this week and save the time for reviewing KEPs. Any objections? Does anybody have something in triage that they really want to look at this week? It's okay if you do. Okay, motion carries. First on our agenda, Dan Winship.
So I had added this, but then I actually think I found the answer afterwards. So we GA'd part of the topology-aware hints feature, but not all of it, and I wasn't sure. So what happens with the rest of it? But then I was looking through the code, and it looks like we ignore the topology mode annotation or label or whatever if the traffic distribution feature gate is enabled. So I think the answer here is that now that traffic distribution is GA, topology, the annotation for topology aware hints is dead. Gaurav, I see you're unmuting. Does that sound right?
In addition to that, I think we also have a plan to actually deprecate that annotation. I actually wanted to understand what the process would be for that, which is why I've been waiting. I want to do some reading, but yes, we explicitly, I think, want to say that that has been deprecated and we want to route people to start using traffic distribution instead.
Okay, but in the proxy code, it actually checks if service topology. Let me find that thing to make sure that I was, because I think it's already dead. Like you can set it, but it's never going to have any effect anymore.
So last I recall, I don't think that was the case. The case was that if you still set if you set both the annotation and the traffic distribution field, then the annotation actually takes precedence. But I may be wrong. If this is not the case, I think we'll need to fix it in the upcoming release.
So while Dan's looking for that, the usual process for deprecating something that was in beta that we're not going to pursue is you put it in the release notes of a related PR. So the release notes get picked up by the automatic machinery for the release, saying, whatever, this annotation is deprecated, use the traffic distribution field instead, and it will be removed in version 130 plus 3 plus 136. And we put that in the release notes basically of every release between now and 36. And then in 36, we say it is gone.
I see. Okay, so we have to start that process now, wait for two releases, and after that, we'll be able to call it gone. Okay.
I mean, we wait for 3 releases, and the third one we can take it away. So it'll be deprecated in 33, 34, 35, and then we can get rid of it in 36.
But so I just linked to the code, and I assumed that this went in 32, or maybe even earlier, 31. But we only look at the annotation if the traffic distribution feature gate is disabled. So it seems that we actually already killed it and nobody noticed.
Ignore value of hints annotation if service traffic distribution is enabled. It's true. This code is already defunct.
And it would have been mostly defunct in beta in 1.32. So
those are good news.
What'd you say?
Those are good news.
Yeah, it makes it even easier.
I will take another look. I don't think this was intended, but okay.
Well, intended or not, I mean, the comment is pretty clear and it's got your fingerprints on it. I clicked the blame button.
Yeah, that is me.
So whether it was intended or not, we seem to have gotten away with it, which means the deprecation, I guess, can just be a notification. This has not worked since 32.
Well, but honestly, what it means is nobody's running 32 yet, right?
Okay, fair enough. If somebody comes in and says, "What did you do to my annotation?" We should follow the regular procedure and not just blindly rip it out, because there's non-zero chance that somebody will say, "Actually, guys, you disabled something we needed." I'm suspicious that will be true, but we'll see. And the conversation then becomes, you can use traffic distribution, and it gives you all this and more. Okay, so Gaurav, that's on you to put those in the release notes in one of your.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yes, I'll also try and make sense of what this is.
So are we going to try to revert what is currently there and backport the reversion to 1.32, or are we going to cross our fingers and hope that nobody cared?
I think we cannot backport this.
Yeah, I don't think.
Well, if we accidentally disabled a feature without any notice, I mean.
Yeah, if it was a breaking change, I think we would make the argument that this should be backported. We accidentally, without meaning to, but seems like we did it on purpose, given the comments, accidentally on purpose made a breaking change.
If that is the case, I think I will make an attempt to backport it.
I wouldn't. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't do it proactively. I think that realistically, the better answer is people should be using traffic distribution, and I think this is one where we can sort of spend our energy elsewhere.
Okay.
But do follow the
release
removal notice. Yeah, thank you. Okay. KEP check. Does anybody have KEPs that they need attention on today to get merged? I have a window with about 20 of them open. I haven't looked at them yet this morning. But I think all of our KEPs look pretty good.
What happened with the DNS thing? Because we started with an environment variable, and now we are with a DNS v2 schema, and I got
No, Natalie and I talked on Slack and agreed that this wasn't urgent and we could just push it, since we didn't have a full consensus and we didn't want to rush in the last second. So we'll push it to the next release. But I think the proposal that I made with putting it in status, I think I convinced Natalie that this was workable. I would like to convince everybody else, but not for this KEP cycle.
But their goal was to consume it from within the pod. How do you expose?
Through a field ref.
Okay, so you put it in status, then you can reference via field.
Yeah.
And the thing that you wanted to build on top of that, because the problem that we have now is we have a local config. But if we can move to a global config, keeping the local config, we can unblock the DNS thing for Kubernetes at all.
I think the idea of a global config is orthogonal to what that KEP is trying to achieve.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you are able to put some building piece that allow us to go there.
Well, I think this gives us the last mile part of it. Like, I'm a pod, I want to know how I'm configured. I will look in my own status. Okay. If later we need a sort of CD-ish system where we push out a global config to all the kubelets periodically or something, then we can do that, but that doesn't need to block on this. And if we ever do a V2, we'll need to think about it.
I was not thinking on that, on pushing config.
Okay, maybe I missed your point.
Yeah, so I was thinking that what if the nodes have or they have like a tier below the global?
Oh, it's the subzone thing that you were talking about? Maybe. That's not how I was thinking about a V2 schema, but frankly, I did not put a lot of thought into a V2 schema. It was more like, I have 3 or 4 things that I hate about the V1 schema. It would be nice to fix them.
Yeah, but the problem is we always run in circuits in this. When you try to fix the V1 schema, you enter. So what happens when the kubelet starts or works with disconnected? And then it's when everything we start in the cycle again. That's why I'm saying, what if we abandon that idea and we pursue this new idea of let's have a global DNS and a local DNS and see how coordinate both. Because at the moment that you put in a status, you are getting something that a controller manager thingy can, reconcile.
I was thinking of it as a kubelet thing, but I guess it could be reconciled by somebody else if there was a global. But you need to know, the question here is, what is the, back up. There's two questions being asked. The one that the KEP originally seeks to answer was, as a server, I want to publish information about myself, including an FQDN that my certificate will offer and that other people can reach me as. In order to do that, it needs to know all of the zones that are configured in this cluster. Today, that should be one zone, right? Maybe forever it'll be one zone, but let's just say all of. And so I can publish into some other service discovery system, right? The other argument, the other proposal, sorry, the other requirement that that I was coming at it from was a client point of view, which was what is the name that I should use to create an FQDN to be able to reach a service? Like if I know the service is named foobar and I want to create an FQDN so that I can skip DNS search paths and stuff, what zone should I stick at the end? Right? Those are two different requirements. Natalie was coming at it from the first and I was coming at it from the second. So I think putting something in status solves more my problem, but it works for her problem. Being, if I want to know what zone I am currently configured for, that's in my status. If I want to know all the zones in the cluster, well, today that's the same thing, right? In the future, it might not be the same thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that intersects with what you're saying. I haven't really understood your proposal, like the implications of it.
What I'm saying is that you have now subzones because everything is flat. If you put another level, another tier on top of these zones, that's the cluster zone, like .com, right? This cluster.local.com. If we create this .com for the global thing,
right? Then
we are
search paths
able.
don't, like search paths won't work, and all the NDOT stuff won't work.
They won't work. Why not?
I mean, a search path will not be appending. I mean, we have to change kubelet to put cluster.local.com into your resolve conf, right?
Okay, I understand that.
But one of the problems that I have that Natalie also cited in that KEP, Natalie, I don't know if you're here. I don't mean to speak for you. If so, please speak up. One of the problems she cited was one of the problems that I've had with the V1 DNS schema, which is because we put the service name and the namespace right next to each other and then made that a search pathable thing, I can create a namespace called com and a service called Google, and I can intercept google.com, right? And that's not okay. So if we were to do a new schema, I would put a fixed token in between those two, at least, like service.s.namespace, so that I couldn't intercept things. Anyway, we're not doing a V2 schema anytime in the near future, and we're pushing this one to the next cycle. So let's spend some time on thinking through if status is good enough for this. I think it is, especially if we define it as a list, and then I think it'll be okay. Okay, any other KEPs? Anybody else?
Just want to double check when you say caps, you mean the cap issue needs to be in the 1.33 milestone with all the correct tags, not the code itself.
Correct. If you have
Cool.
if you have a KK-PR, I'm not looking at it until at least next week. If you have a KEP PR that needs to be approved, basically in the next 6 hours, please ping me on Slack or something so that I can make sure I don't lose it. My belief is all the network caps are done.
And code freeze is 5 weeks away. So
right. So we got plenty of time to go break KK. Although I signed up for a part of the implementation of a KEP that's going to consume a lot of time. So it's going to be a fun 5 weeks.
Which one?
The declarative validation. We had to convince David Eads that it's safe. No, trust us. We'll write lots of really good tests. And now we've got to go and write those tests. Inspired by Gateway API, by the way. So, okay, anything else? London, I would like to ask for a volunteer. London KubeCon is coming up in like 6-ish weeks. We usually have a SIG Network meetup lunch thing. I'm asking for a volunteer to organize. Basically entails looking at the agenda, picking a day, finding a likely meeting place in the conference center. Maybe it aligns with the SIG meet and greet, maybe it doesn't. And then sending out email to the mailing list. Super lightweight task. Any volunteers?
Sure, I'll do it.
Adrian, the perpetual volunteer. You're going to learn this lesson eventually.
You're going to be at KubeCon?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Cool.
Excellent. Is anybody else who's planning to be there? I will be there. Dan will be there. Antonio will be there. Adrian. I can't see everybody's hands. Bowie will be there. Great.
Although I have to fly out on Thursday, so anyways, I'll reply to the email.
Okay. I see Nadia with a thumbs up. Excellent.
I think the man is also coming too. But he's going to present, right? The signal update.
Great. And don't forget, Japan is coming up hot after London. So if you want to have a talk in Japan, I think the CFP is open for that too already. Okay, enough KubeCon. That's it. That's our agenda for today. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about? Or should we go back to reading caps?
Since we have the time, I wanted to go back to that discussion that we were having about topology mode. So I read the code, and the idea that my commit may not have been doing enough justice, but the idea is that since 132, because the feature gate is enabled, we always consider any hints that are configured on endpoint slice. So when the hints are being configured, we actually check for the topology modes annotation. And if it is set, then we configure the hints according to the topology mode, and they are actually obeyed by kube proxy. So that is the actual intent. And the short summary being that right now, topology mode is still a valid thing.
Okay, because the endpoint slice controller will set the hints if it sees the annotation.
Exactly.
And proxy will obey the hints regardless of whether you set the annotation.
Yes.
Okay, that's better.
Okay, so now we just follow through with the deprecation plan.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thanks for following up. Last call for agenda. Going once, going twice. Done. I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of today. Good luck on the last sprint of the KEPs.